for the politics that he thinks is best. And you were right. When he was virulently anti-Trump, he was doing very poorly in South Carolina. And now he's probably going to campaign this re-election. And I'm sorry, just the idea that we're going to sit here and act like, it's easy to sit on a TV set and say, oh, politics, whatever. Politics is politics is politics. It's a really dirty game. It's particularly dirty right now. Possibly going to form a brand. It's really dangerous to the
substantial change. In terms of what impact it will have in November, I really can't say. That's not a question, frankly, I've been asking myself because I don't think that's my role. I think we in the House have to determine, is this the right thing to do? Is this the constitutionally required thing to do? And what convinced me, Megan, and you may recall, I'm not eager to go down the road to impeachment, is when the President committed this latest and most egregious shakedown. their duty under the Constitution, that ought to inure to their benefit. I always felt that the best campaign was simply doing a good job, and I think the senators were taking the impeachment of the President of the United States seriously. So I don't think there should be an impediment to that. But more important, I don't think it's a question of say what you will about the Constitution. I think it is our duty to uphold the Constitution. And if we allow a president to behave like this, allow a president this particular to seek foreign help, to coerce foreign help in a U.S. election, if we let a president obstruct any investigation into their own wrongdoing, that is going to have enormous repercussions. We're going to have to expect a far greater degree of corruption, malfeasance, not only with this president, but any other in the future. So there's a lot at stake here, and if it means that senators are on the campaign trail for a couple more weeks, I think it's worth the trade.
Okay.
This is Joanne Graham speaking right now. So there's a 70% of Americans want to hear from witnesses at the Senate trial. They really do. But I have a if that doesn't happen, how seriously are you considering calling new witnesses like Bolton in the House? Because he said he's fighting. It sounds like he's interested in coming by and testifying. What do you do?
We are considering the Senate in the House. If we're approaching this rationally, though, the senators will be the triers of fact. They should be able to know as firsthand. It makes no sense to the House depose John Bolton and submit that deposition to the Senate. The Senate ought to hear from him quite directly. I also have to say that I'm skeptical that Mr. Bolton would appear before the Senate. He's refused to in the past. He's only said he will appear before a Senate subpoena. And yet we could expose that there's no constitutional or legal basis to distinguish between a House and Senate subpoena. But our goal is not to make John Bolton look bad or expose the hypocrisy of that position. Our goal is to have a fair trial in the Senate, to let the senators evaluate the evidence. And unless the senators are prepared to say there's no factual issue to contest, we fully accept the House has made the case that the President did withhold this White House meeting, did try to extort the Ukrainian leader to help him cheat the election. Unless they're willing to say that there's no factual dispute, the senators need to hear from these additional witnesses. There's really no case to be made against it. And one final point, and this is often neglected, the documents may be every bit as important. The President has refused to provide a single document in the investigation. We've never had this kind of explicit instruction on this. Those documents may be very telling, very damning, because the ones that have come out most recently, once again, reveal in incriminating fashion the President's misconduct. So those documents need to be produced as well.
Congressman Abby Huntsman here. Thank you for joining us. I actually do have a question on the witnesses that we've been talking about. Do you worry that if you open the door to witnesses like John Bolton, that Republicans, we're talking about a fair trial, Republicans, they're going to call in the Bidens, even you, to testify. Trump re-upped his calls for you and for Speaker Nancy Pelosi over the weekend. He was tweeting all about that. Joe Biden has said that he would not testify. Then he said he would testify. Would you, if asked, be willing to testify if you were subpoenaed?
Look, I'm not a fact witness, so other than mollifying the president, I'm not sure why the Senate would call me or Nancy Pelosi as a witness.
But if it is a fair trial, though, you could very well see the case where the Bidens would have to be there.
Yes.
You think that is a good thing politically? You think that's a good thing for impeachment as a whole?
I think what the senators would have to evaluate is, do the Bidens have any relevant testimony?
Right.
And I think the answer is that they don't. What is at issue here is whether the president withheld military aid, withheld official acts like a White House meeting in order to coerce a country to announce investigations, not even conduct them, but just announce them to help smear his opponent. And there's not much light that Joe Biden or Hunter Biden can shed on the president's conduct. So, yes,
Then
the senators...
why not have them show up and just say, if you have nothing to hide, then come out there and tell the American people that? Because they want to hear both sides of it.
It would convert the Senate trial into the same kind of a sham proceeding that the president sought to have Ukraine undertake. There's been no factual basis for these allegations against Joe Biden, no factual basis for the allegation that Ukraine, not Russia, interfered in the 2016 election. That is a Russian propaganda talking point. And to ask the Senate to do these investigations that the president fraudulently sought to get Ukraine to conduct would merely turn the Senate trial on its head. Now, that's something the president would love, but that's not a fair trial. That's a sham trial. And so I think what the senators ought to do is they should take their oath to be impartial seriously and make this a serious and fair trial, fair to the president, yes, but also fair to the American people.
I do want to get to impeachment because there has been some movements there. Nancy Pelosi is now preparing to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate after she withheld them. It's been sort of the standstill for 3 weeks, insisting that Mitch McConnell outline the ground rules for the trial. McConnell didn't budge. And the question is a political one, because I would make the argument that this standstill for 3 weeks has made it so people aren't talking about impeachment. If there was this urgent and this dire need from Democrats to get this done, Nancy and the Democrats would have found a way to do this. And I'll speak for the state, but we haven't talked about impeachment for the last 2 weeks.
Well,
is this a good thing for Democrats?
I'm not sure I agree with that, Abby. The bottom line is this. We Democrats, 3 weeks ago, I sent a letter to Mitch McConnell saying we wanted the truth to come out in this trial. We wanted witnesses. We wanted documents. Who's ever heard of a trial without witnesses and documents? And we requested a limited number of witnesses, all of whom were eyewitness to what President Trump is alleged to have done. And what he's alleged to have done is very serious. To tell Ukraine, you interfere in our elections or I'm going to withhold your aid, is exactly what do we Americans want foreign powers interfering in our elections? It should be the American people who decide. So it's serious stuff. And over the last 3 weeks, we have been able to focus on getting witnesses, documents. And these witnesses, by the way, are not what Republicans say they're Democratic plants. They're the people appointed by President Trump, Mulvaney and Bolton and Blair and Duffy.
Right.
And I don't know what they'll say here at the trial. You know, it could be exculpatory. It could be further incriminating, but we'll let the chips fall where they may. But we will not rest until we get the truth. You know, what Joe Friday used to say, just the facts, ma'am, on the old Dragnet show. That's what we want. Just the facts, ma'am. And we're making progress. Some of the Republicans are now beginning to say, maybe we need witnesses and documents. Had Nancy sent the stuff right over and McConnell moved to dismiss, who knows what would have happened?
So Senator, 71% of Americans do want to hear from witnesses at the Senate trial. Mitt Romney himself says he wants to hear from witnesses. We're not so sure about Mitt Romney because he has been flaky in the past. But is this enough to pressure moderate senators to push for witnesses, do you think?
Well, here's something interesting, Joy. The American people overwhelmingly want witnesses and documents, and 64% of Republicans, Republican voters, in a recent survey said, we want witnesses and documents. So there is tremendous pressure on Republicans from their constituencies.
Why isn't that enough for Mitch McConnell, though? You're telling me the Republicans want it. Why doesn't he do it?
You know what Mitch McConnell said. He's going to listen to whatever Donald Trump wants. And one thing we seem to know, Joy, Donald Trump does not want the truth to come out. If he were so sure that he was right, he would have said to us, have the witnesses, have the documents, they'll tell the truth. But he's afraid of the truth. But in something as sacred and profound as an impeachment, we need the truth. There have been 16 impeachment trials, 2 for president, 14 for other things in the history of this republic. In only one was there no witnesses, and that's because the guy they stopped it before that would happen. Every other trial has had witnesses. Every other trial has had documents. How can you run it? The common sense. How do you run a trial with no witnesses and documents, no evidence?
Yeah, well,
that's
he can't
what McConnell
handle
wants.
the truth.
That's it. You got it.
Senator Schumer, this is Megan. It's nice to see you again, even via satellite, even though Democrats and Republicans aren't supposed to be friends. But, you know, we go back a little. Yes, we do. You've criticized Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell after he described himself as not an impartial juror. But during the Clinton impeachment trial, you had made similar statements on CNN. It's not a criminal trial. It's not like a jury box. It's susceptible to the whims of politics. It's quite different than a jury. So do you find that
two differences, Megan. The first, personally to me, I'm sort of a historical footnote because I was in the House in 1998, and so I was on the prosecution, on the voting for impeachment, and then I went over to the Senate. So I'm in sort of a unique position. I was then. But more important, the witnesses that were being called on in the trial in 98, as you may remember, had already testified. They had given grand jury testimony. Everyone had looked at it. The American people knew what they said. So people wanted to bring them back again. The witnesses we are seeking have not been heard from. And they're the people with the greatest knowledge as to whether the president did what is alleged to them, what he is alleged to have done, which is influence a foreign power, cut off their aid to get them to affect our election. Nothing. You know, it's funny. When I was in high school, maybe this happened to you, Megan, we read that the founding fathers were most afraid of a foreign country interfering in our elections. And I shrugged my shoulders. I said, what's that all about? Well, once again, the founding fathers were a lot smarter than all of us.
Senator Chuck Schumer, who joins us now via satellite. Hey, Chuck Schumer. I want to start with the guy in the White House retweeted a doctored photo. And it's showing you and Speaker Pelosi in front of an Iranian flag dressed in traditional Middle Eastern style clothing with the caption, "The corrupted Dems trying their best to come to the Ayatollah's rescue." Now, why he would make it about the clothing or any of this? I mean, is this, what is the point of this? Is this just him being dumb?
Well, if it was just that, it's, you know, I say I vote and it relates to a larger point, which is the foreign policy that he has created, whether it's in North Korea or in Syria or in Russia, can be summarized in three words: erratic, impulsive, and egotistical. And that's why we're so worried about what's happening in Iran. The mothers and fathers of America don't want another endless war in the Middle East, and yet the president could force us into one or even more likely bumble into one. And that's why I know we're doing impeachment later in the week, but earlier, hopefully in the next day, we'll vote on something called the War Powers Resolution, which says he can't go to war and increase large numbers of troops in the Middle East without congressional approval. That's what our founding fathers wanted. They didn't want the president to be able to declare war on his own.
I just want to make sure that people understand, you know, there's a lot of folks who wear the habibs and a lot of folks who wear the headpieces, and there's nothing wrong with it. And this idea of showing it like there's something wrong with people wearing it, it's not, there is nothing wrong with it. I just want to clear that up.
You bet. And, you know, he seems to like to appeal to bigotry and divisiveness instead of smart policy, bringing us together, keeping us safe.
Senator Schumer, this is Sunny. Turning to Iran, President Trump claims that he ordered the killing of General Soleimani because he had been planning attacks on 4 U.S. embassies. You were in the classified briefing. Did you hear any intelligence about threats against 4 embassies?
Well, Sonny, I'm not allowed to talk about these briefings because they're highly classified, these candidate briefings, but I can tell you I am totally unconvinced that there was any imminence that required immediate.
Well, the president himself told the American people that there were attacks against 4 embassies, planned attacks against 4 embassies. Can you confirm that? Did you hear that?
I can tell you this, that even the Secretary of Defense walked back that. I have never heard anything to that effect.
So is he lying to the American people?
This president plays so fast and loose with the truth, not only on that issue. The other day, he just said
cases, settlements typically, and an agreement like that would be made. Every company goes through the same thing. So money changed hands and whatever.
In this Me Too era, though,
But
Darren,
we have very few, and I think you talk to most women in the company, they would say equal pay, equal promotion, equal opportunity. It's a great place to work. Did I ever tell a bawdy joke? Yeah, sure I did. Do I regret it? Yes, it's embarrassing. But that's
What kind
the way
of a
I grew
joke?
up. Bawdy.
A bawdy joke. Who has it?
Well, you said that, not me. Thank you. That was a fishing pole.
So you have no desire to live the NBA.
We have an agreement. And incidentally, I think an awful lot of the women do not want to do that. Yeah, there may be a few, but I don't think so. And we don't have that many of them. We have 20,000 people. We've been in business since 1981. And recruiting, I think most people would say we're a great place to work. At least I hope so. I can tell you that's what I try to do.
Well, Mayor, we have seen a number of anti-Semitic attacks recently around the country, but specifically here in New York over Hanukkah. Machete broke into someone's house, and you can Google it. It's horrific. You are Jewish, and it's easy to call out, I think, white nationalism when you see it, and anti-Semitism with someone with a MAGA hat or on the alt-right. But Democrats, in my opinion, have been a lot more reticent to call it out on their side as the first Jewish president. What would you do here in New York to help heal, but also in our country nationally? Because again, this is not a partisan issue. And for some reason, Democrats on the left seem to have a harder time calling it out.
I hope that's not true. You certainly it looks
Some,
like
not
it
all.
sometimes. Yeah, and a lot of it on campus, which is just an outrage because on campus you would think that people understand campuses are a place to be inclusive and to let people say what they want to say, but not disparage others with anti-Semitic or anti-anything remarks. I think that it comes from the top. In the end, if the President of the United States said, we're not going to tolerate this, stop it. In your family, if your mother or father said that when you were a young kid, you would have stopped it. The mayor, the governor, everybody. We have a responsibility to set the moral tone and to tell people that are doing something wrong to stop it. And I
I'm
don't
surprised it's happening here in New York City, because I think a lot of people, think of this as metropolis culturally in a lot of ways.
Racist everywhere.
Yeah, there are racists. I mean, take a look. I'm going to give a speech in Tulsa this weekend, and it's a place in Tulsa where there was a very not wealthy but affluent community of African Americans who built a real complex called Black Wall Street, and then one day a bunch of gangsters showed up and burned to the ground and killed all people. Outrage. But using that as an example of what shouldn't happen. If you take a look at the inequalities in our country, average black family has 1/10 the wealth of the average white family. And if you can't afford to buy a house, you can't build wealth because that's where most people build their savings with the house prices going up. There is no question there's a lot of inequality. Some of it is just nasty. Some of it really hurts. I have said that I would support a study, the logistics of it, and you can talk about it. What I do think is we have to do something about it. My solution, first level to all of these things is education. I think without a good education, you start seeing a lot of other things. You don't have the economic opportunities. So I've focused on education in New York City, and I'm very proud to say that in New York City, in 12 years, we reduced the gap between ethnic groups that scored at the top and ethnic groups that scored at the bottom. More than cut it in half by outside measures came in. And I'm proud of that's one number that I'm proud of. Another number is when I left office, the average New Yorker lived 3 years more than I did when I came in, and it was 3 years greater than the national average. But you have one number that tells you a lot of different things that go wrong.
I like a lot of things about you, but I like the fact that you're a billionaire who believes
comparing them to the binary choice, any of those Democratic candidates or Donald Trump,
Yeah.
I go with the Democrat.
Absolutely, no matter who it is.
Yes.
And one more small question about that before we have to go. How would you spend the money? Would you spend it in the ground game? Would you help people get to the polls and register?
We have in virtually every state a ground operation. Some of these people work in them. We have offices, 10 offices through Texas and 5 offices through Georgia, or whatever it is. And you have people on the ground that go and try to get people to come to rallies and
Judge Judy.
Judge Judy.
You have the best survey you're gonna find.
You had her on. She's one of I spent the whole day with her. It was a lot of fun. But would have the main offices, maybe not all of them, most of them, stay open and work on candidates up and down the ballot.
I say, good for you. Good for you. Amazing.
I like a lot of what you have said and what you've stood for, and a lot of my very good friends have worked for you and speak very kindly of you. But there's something.
job of the mayor. It isn't just to go cut ribbons and some things did it wrong. Apologize. Try to do something.
It still wears me out to meet you. I love you. It's like the rest of America loves you. And I have a really quick question to ask you. And I know you are not my Bloomberg, but you're for his campaign. Recently in Texas, there was a mass shooting, and it was prevented after a member of the church's voluntary security team, a man named Jack Wilson, stopped the gunman who
severe complaints, but live, no, anything. It's just no.
Well, when you go on the Golden Globes, a lot of time you are politically incorrect and hilarious, of course.
Thank you.
And so,
Thank you.
so this is,
Yeah, well, that's the thing about offence, isn't it? When people say they're offended, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. Offence is about feelings, and feelings are personal. Some people are offended by equality, some not. You know, so you can't second guess people. You try to please everyone, you please no one. With comedy as well, you've got to deal with taboos and contentious issues. And sometimes you deal in irony, and some people don't get that. But you know, you can't legislate against stupidity, otherwise you'll be doing nothing. So if you're saying anything, you should polarise. You should polarise because everyone's different. So
this year you didn't host it. You missed the fact that this is the Weinstein year.
oh, it's salivating. No, I got an adrenaline rush thinking of, you know, what I could say and whether I'd have to go to jail. No, you know, I like that opportunity because I do like, you know, when there's attention and there's an elephant in the room. Well, he wasn't there this year. No, I do like that because I think it takes the audience to a place it hasn't been before. And it can be a mutual backslapping, you know, fest, fine, but don't televise it, you know, because I'm not doing it for the 200 egos in the room. I'm doing it for the 200 million people watching around who aren't winning awards, who aren't millionaires, who
And who don't care about the awards. That's right.
Humanity, which we mentioned, is your first comedy special in 7 years, and you say that it's the right time for it, the subject matter.
Yeah, well, I left it for 7 years, not on purpose. I was doing other things. I did a series, I did Derek, I did a couple of movies, and I pushed it back because I always thought that stand-up was like the second or third thing I did, whereas now I've changed my mind.
Oh,
now
is that
it's my
so?
favourite thing. I could give everything else up because it's such a privilege, and freedom of speech is so important these days. And you've got, you know, and I've reached the age now where I don't care anymore. You know what I mean? It's like,
Welcome aboard,
what's the worst that can happen?
Welcome aboard.
I'm going to die soon.
Yeah.
So I'm offended. I'm going to die. So what? You know, so...
You made enough money at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to care.
You know, I'm going to give that to animals anyway, just to see
Are
that
you?
look on my
Oh, yeah,
stupid
the
family's face. Leave it all to animals.
And by the way, if Humanity is on Netflix, you're going to want to see it.
And you talk about your family in
I
this.
do. This is the most personal. Again, I think for the same reasons. You know, I think that it's nice to look back and it's a celebration. I talk about my mum and dad and who aren't with us anymore, and jokes about the mum and mum's funeral. You know, because that's what. I think that's what humour's for. It gets us over bad stuff. So it's a sin. Not to joke about all the bad things, that's a waste. Because that's exactly what we should joke about.
I also feel that when you talk about people who have gone to the next world, whatever that is, that you're keeping them alive in a way.
Well, yeah, they exist.
Yeah, they're still there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And, you know, I tell it, you know, there was a lot of truth, so I tell the truth, you know. It's not just this idealised view of your mum. You tell, you know, why... I remember when I was 12, I got older brothers and sisters, which is why I'm like I am, I suppose. I had to show off to be heard, right? And they're much older than me. They're like 11, 13 and 14 years older than me. And I remember when I was about 12, I said to my mum, why are my brothers and sisters so much older than me? And she said, you were a mistake.
And there you have it.
I just laughed.
You know, it's true because sometimes it's also the way you can grieve. Because when my brother passed, I mean, when I started talking about it in my show, because it was like, I couldn't understand how he was more good-looking dead than I was alive.
That's great.
You know, I mean, and people were like, really? I was like,
Yeah.
because you gotta keep, you have to keep talking. You know, you have to keep talking to stay present.
Absolutely,
you know?
make them part of the thing, and it is with affection. You know, I just think that it's like my mum would have loved it. You know,
And they're hilarious anyway.
well, it's
That's why
funny.
we're
Funny is
because
funny.
they were-
Funny is funny. There's no time and a place for being funny. I know some things are sensitive, and you know, I think you have to respect that. And let's get this: I wouldn't be doing those jokes at someone else's mum's funeral.
You're doing
I
it
do
your
it at
own.
mine.
That's
You know, because I
right,
know
that's right.
that you know.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about your partner, Jane, because I've met Jane. She's a lovely person.
Yeah.
You've been with her for how many years? 35?
30 years, yeah.
30
over
years.
30 years, yeah.
Not married yet, though.
No.
You're never going to get married.
No.
No.
He doesn't
point.
like any of that stuff.
There's no
Did you hear
point.
that?
Yeah, no, there's no, you know, we don't want our families to meet, and
But you've said that the key to a happy relationship is separate bathrooms, which I totally agree
that's
with.
a fact. That's a fact. Yeah.
And why is that?
One less argument, isn't it? So yeah, no, it's great. It's lovely to have your space, and no, it's brilliant. Yeah.
I know, I think so too. What about separate bedrooms now?
Oh no.
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 Let's
no.
not get crazy, Joy.
Just
Yeah.
No, you're really active on Twitter. You have 13 million followers, and you love to engage with trolls. It's a fun pastime for you.
Yeah.
You post unflattering photos of yourself, which I think we have, mostly in the back. What is it with your